And so when Sophie had her Kasai, she had to go to Auckland in New Zealand. That's the only hospital that does that operation, has surgeons who perform that operation. And so after she has the Kasai, what are the short and medium term kind of recovery times, especially having to stay up in Auckland if we're like ourselves and don't live there?
Sure. So first of all, just in terms of, so in New Zealand, there's an understanding that this procedure is done in one location, i.e. Auckland.
Gotcha.
And that's because there's lots of data showing not only is the timeliness important, but also the experience and the expertise of the surgeon that's doing the procedure is really important to optimise the outcomes. So someone that does a Kasai once every 20 years is going to have way less successful outcomes than someone's doing 20 a year, so to speak. And there's lots of, as I said, there's lots of data internationally to demonstrate that very clearly. The throughput and the experience is really important. And even if we were to look at international standards, New Zealand might still be considered as a sort of medium-sized centre, so to speak. But having it done with one group of surgeons in one location in New Zealand is really important. And in some parts of New Zealand, that initial workup in terms of could this be biliary atresia might happen in Auckland.
Okay.
In the South Island, that would typically happen here in Christchurch.
Okay.
But then upon making the diagnosis, then yes, we would get up and get the operation organised. And then usually it would be a period of 2, maybe 3, sometimes a little bit longer, weeks up in Auckland. So not just a few days.
Yeah.
And what we're looking for after the operation is to see, is the jaundice disappearing? Is the jaundice going in terms of the colour, but also the numbers in terms of the bilirubin when we measure in the blood tests? And ideally, we'd want complete drainage, i.e. that the bilirubin comes completely back down to normal, the stool becomes pigmented, and baby's doing well.
Cool.
And in some cases, it doesn't drain at all, so nothing happens afterwards. And in some cases, it can be in between in terms of partial drainage, so the bilirubin might come down from 100 to 60, or come down to 40 or something, but not completely normalise. And that initial phase is really important in terms of assessing the response and the outcome to the operation.
Perfect. That's exactly what we went through, isn't it, Sophie? So
I might just add one thing, Viv, as well. So in that initial phase, whilst we're waiting for the workup, for the test to come back, waiting for the Kasai, and even in the initial phase afterwards, nutrition is really important. So we would typically optimise the type of formula, the type of fat that the baby's getting to make it easier to absorb, so that baby can get the calories and the nutrients that it needs. And we'd also start on a whole lot of different vitamins as well, again to optimise the absorption of those vitamins. And that's vitamin A, D, E and K. And that initial response in terms of nutrition and how the weight's going is really important in terms of the outcome, not just then, but also medium term as well.
Fantastic. Andrew, you've just answered my next question, which was, how does having biliary atresia affect feeding and nutrition, especially in the early months of a child's life? So that's great.
Yeah, and we can't say too much about the importance of nutrition in this case.
Yes.